top economic priority of the Clinton administration in the early 1990s was the eradication of budget deficits, a policy that is credited largely with spurring economic growth. If elected, would this be a top priority for you too? And would it be so, sir, even if it meant having to trim some of the proposals in health care or in energy that you have on the table?
Well, we are coming out of the most irresponsible administration when it comes to fiscal management that we have seen in recent memory. So we're going to have a big hole that we have to dig ourselves out of. So our first step has to be to stop digging the hole. That means, number one, not spending $275 million every single day in Iraq. That will help our budget. It means not renewing the Bush tax cuts for people who don't need them and weren't even asking for them, people who are at the top income brackets. Instituting PAYGO, something that was in place during the Clinton administration that ensured that if we are going to have tax cuts, you got to spend, you got to pay for them, and if you have additional spending, you've got to pay for them. So those three things I think we've got to get on track right away. But look, we're going to have investments that we've got to make in the American people at the same time as we are dealing with this deficit. And I am not going to shortchange making sure that we've got early childhood education for every child, because that will reflect our long-term growth. I'm not going to neglect making sure that every single American has health care, and I've put out a specific plan. And part of that plan involves using some of the money from those tax cuts to pay for the insurance for the 45 million who don't have it right now. We've got to make some investments, and we shouldn't shortchange those investments short term, because over the long term we will actually end up generating more tax revenue and we'll be better shaped. I know I'm out of time, but just one last point I want to make on this.
It's your birthday, go ahead.
There you go. The biggest threat we have fiscally is Medicare and Medicaid, because we have our population is getting older at the same time as we're seeing 10% health care inflation. If we have a system of universal health care that is also getting cost savings because we put money into prevention, we put money into medical technology, all that money not only is saved by people who are trying to find health care, it's also going to create savings for the federal government, and that's probably the most important thing that we can do for our fiscal health.
Theoretically, in other words, you would abide some budget deficit in order to make the investments you want to make. That would be the short.
That's right. The problem is, are we making investments that pay off in terms of our long-term growth, and are we investing in the American people, as opposed to wars that we should not have authorized and should not have waged, or tax cuts to folks who don't need them and weren't even asking for the tax cuts at the time. Well,